Hello everyone, and yes, welcome yourself to the Action Figuratorium. My name is Mark Major. I'm a man who does not hide behind an alias or a mask. I'm out here just like you, trying to make a difference one day at a time. Real big toy collector, old school sales marketing guy who looks at, it feels like, nothing but action figure and toy Kickstarters all day long, analyzing their marketing strategies, putting them up against my sort of objective criticism. And then, of course, I always like to spout a bunch of nonsense at the end that sometimes enrages people and starts a fight. But that's the way things go out here in the Wild West of the internet and the action figure sphere. It hasn't been polluted yet like some of these other areas, and let's keep it that way. So let's continue on today by looking at the Eagle 1976 from Zica Toys. At first, I wasn't sure if this is something I should cover because they're actually just offering this one sort of big thing and nothing else, and it's kind of like, well, what do you... But there's actually quite a bit to talk about. Zica Toys themselves, I think, is worth talking about. They should be talked about in a video. Also, the importance of the ship that he's building, and I don't mean in the toy world, but in the cinema world, and the effect that it actually had on Star Wars. Actually had a pretty huge effect that you may not realize. So it's kind of worth, I think it's worth talking about this, this particular Kickstarter, and I think you guys are going to have a fun time with me. So everybody strap on the leather and hold on tight. So let's cut over to desktop cam. It's always exciting when we do this. Here it is, Eagle 1976, and that's because the show that it was on was called Space 1999. The name of the ship was called the Eagle. 1976 is when Mattel made the original kind of giant toy. I did not have this toy as a kid. I would have been too little. My folks probably wouldn't have blown money on it. There would have been no point. I could see them buying it for like one of my older brothers though, but nah, we didn't actually have this. So this is not particularly from my childhood, which means that the people who are going to be jazzed to see this are going to be people who are even a little bit, a smidge older than me. And that means, let's be honest, as time goes on, the older folk drop off, and that means there's going to be even less people excited with nostalgia for something like that. Just kind of something you put in an intro when you're suggesting that they're going to be doing, a type of a replica toy from the past. But luckily for us, there was another Kickstarter of a very similar product, a replica toy that some people had as a kid, and it's also kind of expensive like this. It's a big giant vehicle, and so we're going to be able to compare and contrast this Kickstarter to that one, and I think it's going to tell us a lot about if these guys are going to make their goal. All right, so before I get into the toy and what they're charging, I want to just check off the list the guys putting this out there, because it's a big part of vetting this. It's kind of the reason why I'm talking about it, is this is from Zica Toys, and if you look at the Zica Toys page here on Kickstarter, this is their 11th campaign that they're doing. Now, 2 previous campaigns did fund, did fulfill. There was these sort of 4-inch guys called the New Adventure People. We always need new everything, especially adventure people, because the old adventure people, kind of like me, not going to be around much longer. And then the Sectars, Warriors of Symbion, that funded, that wave 1 funded. However, he tried a second wave of Sectars and it did not fund. Also, here's something, this one I covered before, I should mention that. There's a video on retros. Did not cover Easy Kill. Looks kind of like just more sort of doing O-ring type figures. But this is kind of interesting. We're going to look at this in just a second as well. Tried to crowdfund a 1/6 scale blank buck, which, by the way, if you want a tip, if you came to the Action Figuratorium, and you're like, well, I didn't really get anything out of the video. No, you're going to get this out of the video. Here's what you're getting, people. If you're looking for 1/6 blank bucks, the best thing to do is look for the G.I. Joes that came out in the late 90s that have the trigger finger, right? The super articulated 1/6 guys. That is the best generic buck for the money. Now, there's more expensive ones out there by all sorts of sideshow toys and hot toys. Crap, don't care. Get the G.I. Joe one, and here's another tip. If you're looking for those cheap, don't look under G.I. Joe, look under Lucasfilm, look under Star Wars, because all those same G.I. Joe bodies with the trigger finger on them, they also use them for the prequel action figures, as well as any original trilogy that they reissued. So you can get a cheap, dirt cheap, super cheap Count Dooku, and the body is just a G.I. Joe body. Okay, a little bit of a digression, but you'll learn something. So let's just cut over, because now I got to pick up some time. Let's cut over to the Zica Toys website, right? We're doing some more vetting of these guys. We looked, he had 11 Kickstarters, 2 of them funded, they fulfilled, that kind of thing. We can see he actually got the body this thing made, unless it's these are one-off. No, buy 10 to 100 and get $5 off. No, it looks like he got these pumped out of a factory, even though it didn't fund. So these are all good signs. He's got some stuff for sale. He also has a eBay page. I was thinking about picking up this Eagle Force Riot Trooper from him. Why not? Kind of an O-ring throwback guy. Looks kind of cool. Looks kind of New World Order-ish. So the Zica Toys is in the game. He's in it to win it. He's not a big player. He's not a major player. He's a little fringe guy, but he's an indie guy, and he needs your love. He needs your love. He needs your support. He probably actually just needs your cash. And he probably needs you to quit bitching at him if he does get your cash and he hasn't delivered it yet. Okay. The other last thing regarding the vetting of this is if you scroll down, hold on, let me go to campaign. If you scroll down, you'll see, and great pictures, by the way, of the product on here. Really top-notch job. Visually, I'm giving this thing the thumbs up so far, okay? He's getting those points. But he mentions down here the Zica Toys guy, and I forget his actual name. I should probably learn his name. I should stop calling him something, but you know, it's the way it works. So Ramen Toy and Ace at Ramen Toy, I feel pretty good in saying that he's a friend of the show. Always leaves a comment. He's a very, very cool cat. We really appreciate his involvement with my channel. Love hearing him weigh in on things as well, since he's going to be doing the manufacturing. I feel completely good about backing this if I was going to get one of these, knowing that this thing, for the money you're putting into it, will fulfill. Now, we have seen some lemons. We saw a guy who went by the name Mars Industries. Turned out to be bullshit, ripped everybody off, took their money, and he was going to deliver a 3D printed Airwolf. Didn't happen. Actually, not true. Some people got some parts that they could barely cobble together into a hunk of shit. Some cool videos on that. But the truth is, people will get your money 2 years later. They will not give it back. They won't give you the product. This will get made. It will ship. I guarantee. If he gets paid, if he gets his money, if production gets their money, you're getting this. All right. So what exactly is for sale then? Let's move into the main thrust of the product. I think you kind of figured it out from the intro. This is a Replica toy that originally came out in 1976, and it was for the show Space 1999. And look, it's included with 2 pretty awesome looking astronauts, and I love the looks of these guys. I am into astronauts. I do not know why, but I actually have been starting to try and collect different astronaut action figures. If these were sold separately, I would definitely put down some money for these. Okay, there is a second version, an exclusive version that you can get of this thing that is strictly cosmetic, people. It has 2 things that are different cosmetically with it. The main hatch on the one that he is selling is white. In the exclusive limited to 500, it will be a transparent black, okay? Like some sort of a cool sunroof. And in the back, there are some of the engine pods here that will be painted red before it goes to silver, okay? Now, at first I was like, why is he doing this? This is like competing with yourself. But then I thought, well, he's just taking this thing that he's got, you know, one mold for, And he's just trying to squeeze out an extra few bucks by making some exclusives by changing the design. I actually think that's a great idea. I think that's a good, easy way to create another SKU, another product, without actually having to really do anything. And the little carrot in the stick is it's the one that is the true replica. Because I was thinking, why would you do that? Why not make them all look like the thing? If you're calling it Eagle 76, why not make it all? Well, I think this is just kind of a neat on-the-sly way to get a little more mileage out of the mold, make a little something exclusive. I think it's a good deal. I could also, as a person looking to buy this, I could be pissed off by that too, because it's like, hey, why, you fleecing me? What's going on? But, the marketing checks out. All right, so this guy needs 250,000. That means this is probably a pretty big mold, pretty expensive. May actually be several molds and several parts, and maybe quite a bit of assembly. There may be a bit of deco and paint that needs to be added. And of course, there's the two figures. Where did they come from? Are they from another existing mold that somebody has access to, or is this a new mold as well? So I'm not surprised they need $250,000. Not surprised at all. The asking price for one of these things, if you go to the rewards, the plain Jane one with the white hatch and the white engines is $329, which is kind of a lot of money. And if you want the retro exclusive 500 only available, $359, 30 bucks more. Okay, now we all know about this, and I don't want to hear the groans in the back. Okay, the back groaning should stop. The front groaning can continue. We'll take that all day long. Back groaning, don't need it. But best practices, you need something cheap, you need something deluxe, you need something luxury. You want more cheap than anything else. You want a few deluxe, and you want very little, if any, of your luxury, okay? And then, of course, the more of these SKUs you can bring out, right? If you do 4, 2, and 1, that's great. But if you could do 8, 4, and 2 or something, like, you're going to make more money, but you're going to have more overhead. Just got to balance it out. Some people just keep adding more plates to the pile. Looking at you, Brutal Realm. Hope they don't come crashing down. People will find you at the convention you're at. And what are they going to do? Probably walk away. That's what I'm guessing. So, of course, all marketing needs to be up front, and I think these guys have done a really good job. Okay. So what can we compare this to? Because it's a big item, kind of like a HasLab, like a Sentinel or a Galactus or a whatever. Let's compare it to the Robo-Skull. What is the Robo-Skull, you're asking? Well, I'm glad you asked. The Robo-Skull is this right here, this thing. It is a toy that was available, I believe, very, very early 80s on a type of, not G.I. Joe, but it was some other type of that was licensed out to someone in another country. You would think that I would have a little bit more background on this, but the reality matter is I kind of don't care. I only know enough to know what it is, and that's a replica toy from the 80s, and that they're coming out with their version of it. However, in the campaign, and by the way, if you want to cut to the chase, this thing is like the size of like a TIE fighters from, the first Star Wars movie when they came out in the 70s. That guy, it's about that big, and they made it's called the Robo-Skull, and they made the Robo-Skull so that it could either be like 2-seater for like the G.I. Joe Kenner size guys, or if you're using your 6-inch guys, you can convert it to a 1-seater. That's basically the difference. So the scale kind of shrinks where it's a big ship or it's kind of a puny ship, depending on the dude. And $219 is what they wanted, and they want $329 for the Eagle. So the Eagle is that much more bigger. Makes sense. I'm okay with the price based upon what they're charging for this. I don't think anyone's bilking me. I think it makes sense. But here's what they did different. Look at this. They had this 3-pack for 15 bucks. Okay, of these skeledrones. They were these skulls with like little pincher feet. They're tiny, and guess what? They produced them and they sent them out. They fulfilled on those. They were sent those out. They got everyone to stop the bitching for a little bit because they got some stuff. But look, they had a 4-inch guy for 25 bucks. They had an O-ring guy for 25 bucks. They had a variation of the 4-inch guy for 25 bucks, and they had a couple of 6-inch guys for $35. They had a book for $50. A book? Really? Okay. Various repackaging of figures for different amounts. And then, of course, $219 is what they want for the Robo Skull, and comes with pilot. Blood Wolf pilot. I don't know who Blood Wolf is, but he's the pilot. So that's the Robo Skull. So if we look at this, and these guys trying to hit $250,000, which, by the way, if you didn't do the calculator yet, that means about 760 people at that price, thereabouts. They've already got 93 backers. Some of those people have gotten 2, so they're, you know, they probably need another 600 to go, 600 backers to go on this realistically. Could get there, already at 100, right? But you're going to have to do it all entirely with this. You're going to have to sell this. Everyone's going to have to buy this. There isn't that one weird guy who's going to buy the book. Plus, also, people that buy this are only going to buy this because there's no extra add-ons. There's no t-shirts, there's no headbands, there's no wristbands, hats, jackets, sunglasses, keychains, coins, rings, comic books, printed comic books and digital PDF comic books, scratch and sniff stickers, foil stickers. You know, there isn't all that extra support. Also, if you want to support this thing, like, yeah, I want you guys to succeed, even though I don't have $329, you don't have another way to give them money. You need to set up an avenue that allows people who want to support you to give you money, and if you can do it right, you can make some okay loot on that as well. You know, it can become its own little mini campaign. You know, buy the sticker, $10, get a sticker pack, that kind of thing. But if you just got to ride this thing out at $329 or $359, it's gonna be tough to get that many people because, as I mentioned, I don't know how many people originally had the toy, but they're dying off. Okay, and you know, I personally think that it is a cool kind of work of art. It's a cool kind of modern sort of sculpture in a way, and it would be pretty awesome to have one of these, but I have nothing personally vested into Space 1999 or this original toy as a kid, so I can't really weigh in myself on if I think that this is particularly awesome as a product and you should buy it. It seems like the kind of thing that's really going to be for the person who wanted one or who wants one. I don't know that there's going to be any kind of new collector who's going to think like, oh yeah, I should get one. It feels like it's just so narrow of shooting into the past with this that I don't know if you can pull enough people, if you can get that 760 people to throw down for one of these. But if you do, this is going to be one of the coolest centerpieces out there. And I think a good start for these cats would just be to make it so you could buy the astronauts and make it reasonable. And if you force people to buy them in a 2-pack or something like that, it would be great. You know, if you want to make like one type of weird exclusive, like get them glow in the dark or something, okay, don't make 50 astronauts. Give us red astronauts and maybe one like glow in the dark or something like that. Throw in kind of, you know, juice it with some extra stuff, especially since they're going to make the astronauts anyways. Why not sell them separate? That's one of the things I'm thinking of. But this piece, right, specifically as something from historical note of cinema needs to be recognized, right, okay? Because when they worked on the original Star Wars film, they created this giant model for what was called the pirate ship. It was the ship that Han Solo was going to command and fly. And after they built it, someone brought up that it looked very similar to this ship, which was on a show on TV, okay? By the way, I don't know that this originally aired, this show. I believe it was a British show, and I don't know that it actually aired in the United States, except probably rebroadcast on some smaller stations. I'm guessing, because that's kind of how we got Monty Python. We got Monty Python through like PBS shows at night. So I imagine this could have been something like that. So we're talking very sort of obscure in the 70s. But when they looked at this thing and they said, okay, our ship looks too much like it, they set out to build a different ship right away that would not look anything like this. And so instead of going long, right, they went round. And then Joe Johnston, the guy who created the Millennium Falcon, he put some tines on it, some forks, so that it would have a front and a back. It would have a sense of direction, that it would go right, and you would know which way it was going correctly. And they really liked the original cockpits of the first ship, and so they just sawed it off and glued it on that. And you can tell that they went so far as to name it something that would not indicate that it was not this ship, right? So instead of calling this the Eagle, they called theirs the Falcon. And instead of saying 1999, they said Millennium. So instead of saying Eagle 1999, they flipped it around and called it the Millennium Falcon, because the whole point of it was to design it as something completely different to this. So that is why this particular piece, to me, I think is interesting as a type of cinema artifact in some ways in our culture. And to have guys doing a replica of it, I think is kind of cool. But I'm always asking the question, is this something we need? And so if you guys think it is, right, well, let me know in comments. I love these conversations. I love to hear what people think about these toys. Because I see something like Super 7 doing the Goonies figures, and I'm like, nah, we don't need that. That's no problems are solved by making that toy. That toy kind of sucks. But is this something we need? Is this the last chance to get something like this? Are we seeing the dying end of the Gen X toy collector generation? That's what it kind of feels like. It kind of feels like it's the end of the line. What's next? Someone's going to do a replica Big Jim or something like that, Maybe, maybe not. So, I guess that's really kind of all I have for this Kickstarter, other than I think they need to fluff it out by making some extra SKUs, by putting some action figures on there, find some kind of keychain type stuff. Otherwise, it is what it is. It's a replica piece of a toy that some people remember from a long time ago, and it might trigger you in such a way that you gotta have it. Totally understand how that goes, and don't think it's such a bad thing necessarily. Wondering if there's enough people to support it though. So with that, everybody out there, stay charged.